death penalty and calls for its abolition has long stood a controversial social debate across the legal and public arenas. The pro-death penalty faction argues death penalty as a psychological deterrence to prevent the recurrence of extreme crimes and providing catharsis of retribution and justice for the victim. Whereas the counterparties argue from a moral perspective and a penal negligence, that is, death penalty violates basic human right, and potential miscarriage of justice may cause innocent life forfeit. However, the ambiguity that either side fails to address is, why was death penalty necessary in the first place, and why, in some of the most developed countries in the world, its implementation still persists? Well, let us examine some of the popular arguments for and against death penalty. First, the repeal of death penalty is a global trend. According to the research of Amnesty International, quote, only a few countries carry out executions. Just 4 countries were responsible for 84% of all recorded executions in 2017. So not only is capital punishment a trend, but also on the verge of becoming obsolete. Nonetheless, the pro-establishment often argue that the phenomenon trend is nothing but a metaphysical construct derived from our confidence in the continuous progress of society. That is, in essence, nothing more than a collective sentiment. And sentiments imply irrationality, which tends to gauge the issue of death penalty through the lenses of self-righteousness and sympathy, as opposed to legal and ethical considerations. Second, quoting academic celebrities for authoritative validations. Signore Beccaria, the Italian criminologist who established the theoretical framework of the contemporary criminal justice system, expressively remarked his disapproval on capital punishment. Quote, the death penalty is not a right, but war of a nation against a citizen. And in furtherance of that, quote, legitimizing the very behavior that the law seeks to repress, that is, killing, capital punishment is counterproductive in the moral message it conveys. Beccaria's adage, however, still failed to enlighten the pros, and the underlying philosophy is quite simple. Beccaria's disapproval at an individual level, though academically authoritative, does not constitute a universal truth. The appreciation of Beccaria's philosophy is predominantly based on one's judgmental prejudices, which are fundamentally shaped by personal values and experiences. Thus, as the pros would counter, we selectively sort and fit the bits of reality into our own ideological realm. Just as much as I admire Aristotle's words of wisdom, likewise, I choose to reject his theory on natural-born slaves. Third, death penalty has proven ineffective deterring extreme crimes, and the occasional miscarriage of justice cost innocent lives. Countless research studies equipped with empirical data suggest that death penalty failed to restrain the homicide statistics than expected, and hence should be repealed or replaced. In this case, the pros offer rebuttals on several grounds. All scientific studies are bound to circumstantial limitations. To advertise a finding without touching its constraints is equivalent of telling half-truth. And once too often have we either not been made aware of that particular information, or dismissed its significance and elected to ignore it. In addition, non-death punishments, such as incarceration, sometimes underperforms its entrusted expectations. Should we apply the same reasoning as it did for death penalty and rescind incarceration for good? Of course not. After all, penalties are essentially tools, and it is the people who wield them for maximizing social benefits. Likewise, the generalization of miscarriage of justice wronging the innocent is a logically flawed premise for establishing anti-death penalty arguments. The analogy with a similar logical fallacy would be, people occasionally choke to death at dinner tables. Thus, we should abolish dinners. Further, there are more precedents of innocent people imprisoned for life than that of penalized to death, which in the sense of human rights violation, either occasion has the victim's freedom taken for life. Yet, we stand firmly for the necessity of imprisonment and disdains death penalty for its cruelty. If you have been paying attention and reasoning along, you would have come to the realization that the argumentative methodologies employed by both the pros and anti-establishments are, in essence, largely based on convictions and values, rather than pure rationalities. The angle of interpreting the issue also plays an important role in rationalizing respective standpoints. In the next video, I shall elaborate further with 2 case studies to substantiate why death penalty is necessary.